Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nishant, and I'm doing my PhD on Khajuraho Heritage Region, more or less, basically looking at historical landscape conservation and its role in sustainable regional development. And Intact Belgium has been really crucial in getting this done and getting this started. And I'm from KU Leuven. I'm doing my PhD under Professor Koen van Balen from Remolimer International Center for Conservation. Today we are going to talk about engaging local stakeholders and their recommendations, which is a slightly tricky subject because we see it executed. So we have enough text on that which talks about how to engage community and how to give them a platform, and not only just text international, but also within our national context, such as organizations like TERI and also this recent community-based natural resource management, which recently happened as well, frankly, also in Bundelkhand. So these are a few of the programs and directives which actually focused on community engagement in it. I have to also emphasize that recently in the Smart Cities plan as well, they have a big agenda about involving the local community, because if you empower the local community, you basically get the private sector, as it has been talked about, on board. So we try to do it to have it has a certain purpose as well. It not only allows a holistic participation from all the people, but also empowers them in a way. And in this case, particularly in rural scenario, it's often a trust-building exercises and an awareness campaign. So you talk to the people, and in return, basically, they talk back to you thinking also that their voice is heard and their opinion is going to make a difference, making them proactive citizens in general. So we sent an invite on WhatsApp to all the Sarpanch and Gram pradhan and the Rajnagar, Sevak and Sachiv of all the villages which come under Rajnagar Janpad and Nagar panchayat. So panchayat, just to let you know, those of you who does not know, panchayat is the most basic form of municipal body in India. So the more downwards we go towards the village level, we have a body called panchayat which governs the village. And then we had, after persuasive attempts of at least 5 or 6 visits, we had a turn up of 104 people yesterday, which was rather surprising and very pleasant. And they proactively talked about it. So this was in the Janpad of Rajnagar, right next to the garden where we were having the morning session. So there we tried to discuss with them. So we had 4 agendas more or less, because it's very difficult to engage these many people for a longer span of time. So you have to have very clear points about it. And first one was to understand their connection with the landscape. The second one was aspirations and how they see their village. The third one was the meaning of development, what in their head means development, because it is really a different term for different people, it seems. And lastly, also, how do we reach out to them, or how do they reach out to us? What is the best mode of communication with them? So they all, they were well represented by, there were women as well and men as well, very young people and older people. And then we asked them to actually draw maps. So we gave them blank sheet of pages and we said, draw a map of your village, because we want to understand what you understand of your village. For you, what is your village? So then we had certain interesting results, and some of them were really focused on cultural heritage. And this was a rather minimalistic plan, which basically just showed the pond and the temple and the gadi. Gadi is the fortress. So it kind of shows their inclination very directly, that how do they define their village and what is the meaning of their village for them. This was a more elaborate one, where they also tried to emphasize that which kind of communities live in which sector, because I also said that is there a social segregation, is there a social hierarchy which happens, and is that taken up as well. And then they also started noting down when we asked them that is there a place of a ritual, because we are not talking about buildings here. We are talking about places of ritual, because a simple tree, which cannot mean much to us, can mean a lot to a community, because there's certain festival in the monsoons happen only around that tree, for example. And near an amla tree, or for example for that. So it's very important for us to know that before we start taking up this huge task of development and bringing in tourism already in these sectors. And then they also talked about their traditions, which is what they cook and what they like to eat during those festivals, where, and then they started talking about the aspirations for development. Initially, they had difficulty to say, to even answer what do they understand by development. And many people said that, well, there are certain schemes, there are development schemes, and we follow that. But after a while, when one of the guy also said that development is getting rid of the problems or the issues in the village. So that person kind of set the tone of the discussion already, and the moment they heard problems and issues, there was a Pandora's box. So that's when they started talking, and they said, oh, that's what we have to talk about, that what are our problems and issues. And then there were certain very proactive people, as in they stood up against the whole crowd to say that, when I asked them very bluntly that, would you like tourism in your village, for example, because we think tourism can happen in the village. And the whole hall said yes, but this certain gentleman just stood up and said, I don't want tourism. And then we asked, okay, why you don't want it? And then he said, because I feel this can threat my local Bundeli culture. I'm okay with people coming from Kerala, but maybe not people from abroad, because that is too different a culture. And then I asked him, don't you think that your TV is doing the same thing right now? So he said, that's a gradual, it's a gradual change. It's happening. It's the new generation which is addressing to, which also we should think about. But I feel that sometimes we have to be careful about it. So there was a certain apprehension, and why I'm not pointing it out that this is a negative part of tourism. What I'm trying to point out, when we start bringing in tourism, we have to be careful about this. So this is a point which has to be noted down and has to be thought about, that we cannot just think about this economic drive, because then again is the same loop which happens, that the tourism goes up, then the quality goes down, and the tourism goes down. This is going to repeat itself. We don't want that. We want a sustainable solution which can go long term, and that's why we go for it. So cutting it short also, so the points which we have to build upon is temple and pond came repeatedly in the discussion. Everybody talked about a temple and a pond. So water resources and cultural heritage is very, very important. Then livelihood was another issue, because they were not happy about their kids leaving the village for getting work outside. When they thought that tourism can give them employment within the village, that was a plus point already, and they responded rather optimistically to that. But they again said that the livelihood, why can't the livelihood be within agriculture sector and other sectors as well within the village? We need to develop more such sectors, for example, organic farming, as we have discussed just now. Migration was another issue which they were not happy about. Non-arable land, which they really want to convert it back with the help of government schemes. And then the usual talking also about that the well has to be redone, it has to be taken care of or dug deeper, because the water level keeps going down, which is not really a perfect solution. And then new ponds to be made, because they said that these existing ponds do not cater to our needs. On asking, do you maintain them, they said no. But that was not, they did not say that such a community exercise exists, but maybe they need us to make that community exercise happen. So maybe it does not exist, but maybe we can somehow accelerate that community to bring them together, to start making them, they themselves will start working on these community exercises which used to exist and were part of their rituals. And lastly, so basically the 6 points which I think it will be really great that we take from this discussion is, firstly, water. We know most of us are from Bundelkhand, so we know, but there are other participants as well, so I want to highlight. Water is a very, very big issue here. And water, there's a lot of politics around it as well. There's a lot of aspirations, and there's a lot of expectations with water here. And thereby agriculture as well, because they're mostly interdependent in a way, but and agriculture also, because it's really the core of their society. They really take pride in their land and farming, and this is their culture. So we are addressing this knowledge system right now, and as such, as I said, places of rituals, which could be a farm as well, because there are certain rituals which happen in a different way, and we need to go ahead with that. Festival and rituals, again, part of the cultural landscape we are talking about. Then livelihood and migration, education to empower them and to make them understand how they themselves can keep their Bundeli culture together as well. So education, not just to take them away from their culture, because they repeatedly said, we would like classes in Bundeli as well. Bundeli should be a subject because people don't speak Bundeli anymore. And we are losing that. It's an intangible heritage which is getting, because they don't find employment opportunities in it. And that's perfectly fine. They said education system should have something in Bundeli as well, part of it. And then, of course, the very delicate dynamics of tourism and local culture, that we have to make sure that tourism is actually helping the local culture to build up. Thank you.